want you to close your eyes for a second. Imagine the loudest place you have ever been. Maybe a rock concert. You're right up next to the speakers. Or maybe the tarmac at a busy airport. Now, I want you to multiply that volume by 1,000.
We are talking about sensory overload on a scale that is, well, it's hard to even comprehend.
You're standing on a massive dirt field. The air, it smells like sweat and rusting iron and horses and ozone. And you are surrounded by, what is the estimate here in the source material? Millions of soldiers.
The texts describe an Akshahini formation. We are talking about massive, massive scale. Millions of men, elephants, chariots, cavalry, and the noise, the conch shells blowing, the war drums beating. It isn't just background noise. It's designed to induce panic. It is a sonic weapon.
Right. It's psychological warfare before the first arrow is even fired. And right in the middle of this chaos, parked in that terrifying stretch of no man's land between two colliding armies, is a single chariot.
And inside that chariot sits a man who is supposed to be the toughest guy in the room, Arjuna.
Yeah, let's talk about Arjuna for a minute, because I think there's a misconception that he's just some ancient action hero, like a Marvel character who is just, ready to punch the bad guy.
Right.
But looking at the source material for today, which is chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, he is not acting like an action hero at all.
Not even close. He is crumbling.
He's having a panic attack, a legitimate medical-grade panic attack.
A full-blown breakdown. And this is why we wanted to cover this specific chapter today. We often look at these ancient texts as, religious or ceremonial or just old literature. But if you look at the clinical description of Arjuna in these verses, it is a physiological event that any modern psychologist would recognize.
It says his limbs are failing. His mouth is dry.
Mukham cha parishishati. His mouth is drying up. His body is trembling. His bodhigandiva, which is this legendary weapon that really defines his identity.
It's everything to him.
It's everything. And it's literally slipping out of his sweaty hands. He can't even hold his tools.
I think everyone listening has had that moment. Maybe not with a bow and arrow, and maybe not with an elephant charging at you, but it's 3 a.m, you're staring at the ceiling, your heart is racing, and you're thinking, I cannot do this. I physically cannot go into that office tomorrow.
That is exactly what this is. It is that moment where the burden of responsibility becomes heavier than your ability to carry it. It's burnout, it's decision paralysis, and it is a crisis of meaning.
And today, we are doing a deep dive into the solution to that crisis. We are exploring chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita,
which is often called the soul of the Gita. Formally, it's titled Sankhya Yoga, or the Path of Doctrines. And the reason it's called the soul is that this single chapter essentially summarizes the entire text. It takes us from the absolute bottom of Arjuna's despair,
rock bottom,
to the absolute peak of philosophical clarity.
And I love how our sources frame this. This isn't presented as a religious sermon delivered from a pulpit. This is crisis management.
Precisely. It is a battlefield manual, a user guide for the human condition when it's under extreme stress.
So, if you've ever felt like, I can't do this, I quit, I'd rather go live in a van down by the river than deal with this meeting, then you are essentially Arjuna in that chariot.
That is the hook. Arjuna isn't just a warrior from an ancient epic. He represents the confused human soul. And his breakdown is the entry point for some of the most profound metaphysics and psychology ever written.
So let's unpack this properly. We've set the scene. Loud noises, impending death, total panic. Let's talk about the meltdown itself. Section 1 of our outline calls this the meltdown. And honestly, I want to dig into why he is melting down. Because he's not a coward, right?
No, and that is a crucial distinction. The source text emphasizes his credentials. He's called Gudakesha, which means the conqueror of sleep.
Conqueror of sleep. That is a cool nickname. It sounds like he's the patron saint of college students during finals week.
Chuckles. It implies he has mastered lethargy and ignorance. He's an elite performer. He's also called Parantapa, the destroyer of enemies. He has fought gods. He has fought demons. He doesn't get scared of violence.
So if he's not scared of getting hurt, what is the problem? What is the actual trigger for this breakdown?
The problem is who he has to fight. He looks across the field, and he doesn't just see the enemy. He sees his grandfather, Bhishma.
Oh, wow.
He sees his teacher, Drona. These aren't just random bad guys. These are the people who raised him. Drona is the guy who taught him how to hold the bow in the first place.
Right. So he's in a situation where doing his job means killing his mentors. That's unthinkable.
Exactly. And he basically says, I would rather live by begging for alms. I would rather be homeless and humiliated than enjoy a kingdom stained with the blood of my teachers.
Which, honestly, Fair point. I want to pause here because I think we need to give Arjuna some credit. If my boss told me I had to take out my favorite kindergarten teacher to get a promotion, I'd probably quit too. That sounds like a moral stand, doesn't it?
It does. It sounds incredibly noble. I don't want to kill, I want peace. But the text and Krishna identifies this as a trap.
A trap. How is not wanting to kill your grandpa a trap?
Because it's not coming from a place of spiritual clarity. It's coming from karpanya, which the sources translate as weakness of heart or a poverty of spirit.
A poverty of spirit.
Yes. He isn't refusing to fight because he's a pacifist. If these were strangers, he'd have no problem. He's refusing because of attachment. He is confused. His compassion is misplaced.
He sees a lose-lose scenario.
Right. He analyzes the outcomes. If he loses the war, he dies. Bad. If he wins the war, he has to kill the people he loves, and he'll be miserable forever. Also bad.
He's run the numbers.
He's run the numbers, and they all come out negative. So he's sitting there thinking, what is the point? Even if I win the lottery, if I have to kill my family to get the ticket, I don't want the money.
Even if I achieve unchallenged ownership of this prosperous world, I cannot see how I can dispel this grief. That's the quote. He's realized that external success, winning the kingdom, won't fix the internal problem.
Which is such a modern feeling. Even if I get the promotion, even if I get the big house, I'll still be miserable.
Yeah.
It's that dawning horror that the external prize isn't the real prize.
And this leads to the turning point. Verse 7. This is arguably the most critical moment for anyone who wants to learn anything. Arjuna stops arguing.
He surrenders.
Up until this point, he's been lecturing Krishna, right? He's been listing all the reasons why the war is bad, why society will collapse, why he's right to quit.
Yes, he's been mansplaining morality to God.
Chuckles.
Bold move, very bold. And notice what Krishna does during that rant. Does he interrupt? Does he argue back?
The sources say he's silent, just listening.
He says nothing. He lets Arjuna pour it all out.
Yeah.
You cannot fill a cup that is already full. As long as Arjuna was arguing his case, thinking he knew what was right, Krishna couldn't teach him.
So the breakdown is actually necessary. It's not a bug, it's a feature.
It is the prerequisite. It's only when Arjuna finally says, my mind is conflicted, I am your disciple, please guide me, that the download of wisdom begins. This is Prapati surrender. He admits, my logic has failed, my intellect is confused, I don't know the answer.
Okay, so the cup is empty. Arjuna is broken, crying, ready to listen. And what does Krishna say? Because if I'm in that state shaking, crying, I expect a comforting pat on the back. Maybe it's gonna be okay, buddy. Take a breath.
Chuckles. If you are looking for a therapist who validates your feelings, Krishna is not the guy.
No, apparently not.
Verse 11 starts with what the sources call a rhetorical reaction.
Yeah.
Krishna smiles.
He smiles. The guy is crying about killing his grandpa, and Krishna smiles. That feels cold. That feels a little cruel, actually.
It's a smile that says, you are caught in a delusion. It's the smile of a parent watching a child cry because their ice cream fell, knowing that there is a whole freezer full of ice cream at home. It's a perspective check. It's a smile of profound compassion, but from a much, much higher perspective.
And then comes a rebuke.
He essentially says, you are speaking words of wisdom. You sound very smart with all your arguments, but you are mourning for those who are not worthy of grief. The wise grieve neither for the living nor for the dead.
Ouch. You talk like a wise man, but you cry like a fool. That is a reality check. That is a bucket of ice water.
It is the shock therapy of the Gita. Krishna immediately pivots from the emotional drama to the metaphysical reality. He introduces Sankhya philosophy.
Sankhya. Let's define that, because it sounds academic, but it's the whole foundation, right?
It is. Sankhya basically means analytical knowledge. It's the analytical understanding of the difference between the soul, the Atma, and the body. The real versus the temporary.
And this is where we get into the heavy stuff, the metaphysics of the soul. And I want to warn our listeners, this is where the conversation usually gets abstract and people tune out. But we need to dig into this because this is the foundation of the entire argument.
It is. You cannot understand the practical advice later if you don't buy the premise here.
So Krishna starts talking about Apava twins. This was in our notes, and I found it fascinating, but also a bit confusing. Can we break this down? Apava means non-existence.
Right. So in our physical world, everything has apavad twins. Think about that coffee mug on the table in front of us.
Okay, looking at the mug, it's right here.
Before that mug was manufactured in a factory, did it exist?
No, it was just clay or ceramic dust or something.
That is prior non-existence. Pragapava.
Yeah.
It wasn't there before.
Yeah.
Now, if I smash it on the floor,
It's gone. It's shards. It's not a mug anymore.
that is post-non-existence, Pradavamsabhava. So the mug is bookended by non-existence. It didn't exist, it exists for a bit, and then it won't exist.
Got it. Mug is here now, wasn't here before, won't be here later. That's true for everything. My car, my house, my body.
Exactly. But Krishna looks at Arjuna and says in verse 12, "There was never a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be."
Okay, I want to stop you there because that sounds like a distinct contradiction to everything we know about reality. Krishna looking at these men who are very much flesh and blood and telling Arjuna, these guys, they've always been here, and they will never stop being here.
It is a radical statement. It's meant to completely shatter Arjuna's framework.
It sounds crazy. I mean, if Arjuna shoots an arrow through them, they stop moving, they decay, they are gone. How can Krishna say they have no non-existence?
Because Krishna is redefining what real means.
Okay, so there's a different definition of real at play here.
In our world, we think real means I can touch it.
Mm-hmm.
This table is real. That cloud is real. But in the context of Sankhya philosophy, real, sat, has a very strict definition. That which never changes.
That which never changes, okay.
Correct. If something changes, it is considered temporary or unreal, a sat. So look at your body. Is it the same as it was when you were 2 years old?
No, not even close. I mean, biologically, every cell has probably been replaced by now. I'm a completely different pile of atoms.
Exactly. So your body is constantly in a state of flux. It is technically unreal because it is unstable, it has a beginning and it will have an end. But the observer, the thing inside you that remembers being 2 and is currently experiencing being an adult, has that changed?
The sense of, I know I feels the same. I still feel like me, even though the mirror looks different. There's a continuity there.
That is the Atma. That is the soul. And the commentary uses this concept of abhava to prove it. For something to be destroyed, it has to be made of parts. You smash the mug, the parts separate. The soul has no parts. It is a singular, simple unit.
So you can't break it because there's nothing to dismantle. It's fundamental.
Precisely. It's the fundamental unit of existence. Verses 23 and 24 describe it vividly. Weapons cannot cut it. Fire cannot burn it. Water cannot drown it. Wind cannot dry it.
It's Superman.
It's beyond Superman. Superman can be killed by kryptonite. The soul has no kryptonite. There is no external force that can act upon it.
And this leads to the famous clothes analogy, verse 22. Just as a person throws away worn-out clothes to put on new ones, the soul discards a worn-out body to take a new one.
It's the most cited verse in the Gita for a reason. It's so simple and so profound.
It sounds so simple when you put it that way. We don't hold a funeral for a t-shirt. But I want to push back on this a little bit, if I can.
Please.
Because if I'm at a funeral and I'm crying over my mother or my friend, and someone walks up to me and says, hey, don't worry, the fire can't burn him, he just changed his shirt, I might punch them in the face.
You chunkles.
Oh.
You would be right to do so. It would be incredibly insensitive. It misses the human element.
It feels cold. It feels like it minimizes the tragedy of death. Oh, it's just a suit. But that suit was the way I hugged them. That suit was the voice I heard, the laugh. That's what I'm grieving.
You hit the nail on the head. That is the source of the grief. Arjuna isn't crying because he thinks his grandfather's soul will vanish. He's crying because he's attached to the interface.
The interface, I like that.
Think of it like a computer or a video game. You interact with other players through their avatars. If their avatar crashes or gets deleted, you lose the connection. You miss the interface. You miss playing the game with them. But Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna, the user is still there. The user is safe. You are crying over the pixels.
I see. So the grief is real, but it's based on a misunderstanding of what is actually being lost. The grief is for the avatar, not the player.
Yes. It's an attachment to the packaging rather than the product. Krishna isn't saying don't love them. He's saying know what you are loving. If you love the body, you are setting yourself up for heartbreak because the body is guaranteed to break. If you love the soul, that bond is eternal.
Okay, I can see the logic. It's reframing the fear of loss. But Krishna knows that metaphysics is hard, right? I mean, not everyone can just snap their fingers and say, oh, I'm an eternal soul. Cool, let's fight.
Right. It's too abstract for the heat of the moment, especially for a warrior like Arjuna, who is a man of action.
So Krishna shifts gears. In section 3 of our outline, we see him move from philosophy to pragmatism, the get up and fight argument.
The sources call this the shift from Sankhya knowledge to Dharma. This is the tough love section. He's saying, okay, you're not getting the high-level philosophy. Let's talk about your job.
This is verses 31 to 38. If you won't fight for the soul, fight for your reputation.
It's a brilliant pivot. He speaks to Arjuna's ego, or rather his social identity, as a Kshatriya.
Kshatriya is the warrior caste, right? The protectors. Their
Yeah.
whole deal is to maintain order.
Yes. Their entire societal function is to protect the innocent and uphold justice. So Krishna says, if you quit now, people won't tell stories about your compassion. They won't say, oh, Arjuna was so kind he didn't want to hurt his grandpa.
No, they'll say he chickened out.
Exactly. They will say you were scared.
Yep.
Verse 35. Great warriors will conclude that you ran away from the battlefield out of fear. And for a professional soldier, for someone of his standing, disgrace is worse than death.
It's the peer pressure argument. Everyone is going to make fun of you. It's surprisingly high school, but I guess it works.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's effective. He's saying, you think you were being moral, but you are actually just being unprofessional. You are abandoning your post.
And then he adds the win-win calculation in verse 37. This is pure game theory. It's like he's laying out a spreadsheet for Arjuna.
Play it out.
Scenario A. You fight and you die. Result. As a warrior doing his duty in a holy war, you go to heaven.
Okay, good outcome.
Scenario B. You fight and you win. Result. You rule the earth. You get the kingdom.
Also a good outcome.
So he says, therefore, get up and fight. There is no losing scenario here unless you quit. If you quit, you get infamy and you fail your duty. It's the only path that guarantees a loss.
But I want to touch on something the source material emphasizes, the concept of a just war. Because to a modern listener, just fight and you'll go to heaven sounds a bit dangerous, like crusade rhetoric.
Yeah, kill them all, God will recognize his own. That's a slippery slope.
It is a vital distinction. The source commentary clarifies that this isn't violence for fun or conquest. The opposition Duryodhana represents adharma, or unrighteousness. He has usurped the kingdom, humiliated the innocent, and refused every single peace treaty.
Right. Krishna actually went as a peace messenger before the war, didn't he? He tried to prevent this.
He did. He asked for just 5 villages, a symbolic gesture. Duryodhana said, I won't give enough land to stick a needle in.
So war was the absolute last resort. All other options were exhausted.
Exactly. Think of it like a surgeon. If a surgeon cuts a patient with a knife, is that violence?
I mean, he's cutting flesh. It's damage, but it's for a reason.
But why is he doing it? To remove a tumor, to save the life. If the surgeon says, oh, I'm too compassionate to cut this person with a knife, I don't want to hurt them, and he walks out of the operating room.
The patient dies, and it's the surgeon's fault.
And the surgeon has committed a sin of omission.
That's a great analogy. So Krishna is saying that Arjuna isn't the killer, he's the surgeon. And the army across from him is the cancer in society that needs to be removed for the health of the whole.
Precisely. And that leads us to the definition of sin in this chapter. Arjuna thinks killing is the sin. But Krishna flips it. He says that abandoning your duty, your dharma, is the actual sin.
If you are a firefighter and you refuse to run into a burning building because you might get burned, you aren't being safe. You are violating the core purpose of your existence. You're failing everyone.
Yes. So we've had the metaphysics, you are a soul, and the pragmatism, you are a warrior. Now we get to the part that I think is the most famous part of the Gita, the art of work, karma yoga.
Verse 39 marks this pivot. He says, I have given you the theory, now listen to the practice. And verse 47, if you have a, quote, magnet on your fridge, it's probably this one.
Karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana.
You only have the right to do your duty, never to its fruits.
It is the golden rule of stress-free living, or at least the blueprint for it.
But let's play devil's advocate here, because I can hear our listeners right now screaming at their phones.
Duckles, go ahead, I'm ready.
Wait, if I don't care about the fruit, the paycheck, the promotion, the win, why would I work hard? Why would I even get out of bed?
It's the most common objection, and it's a very logical one from our modern mindset.
It goes against everything we are taught in the modern world. Visualize your success. Eyes on the prize. Manifest your destiny. If I'm running a marathon, I'm running to get the medal. If I'm working late, I'm doing it for the bonus. If you take away the fruit, what is the fuel?
That is the intuitive reaction. If I don't get the cookie, why run the maze?
Yeah.
It feels like it removes all motivation.
Exactly. It sounds like a recipe for mediocrity. Oh, I don't care what happens, so I'll just do a half-hearted job.
And Krishna explicitly warns against that. He says, do not be attached to inaction. So you can't just sit on the couch and say, I'm detached, so I'm not doing the dishes. That is tamas, laziness. That's not what this is about.
So I have to work hard, but I can't care if I win. That sounds like psychological torture. How do you even do that?
Let's flip it. Have you ever wanted something so bad, like a job interview or a first date or a big presentation, that you were shaking?
Oh, yeah. The stakes were too high. I felt like I was going to throw up. My mind was just racing.
And how did you perform?
Terrible. I stuttered. I was sweaty. I was in my head the whole time thinking, don't mess this up, don't mess this up. And of course, I messed it up.
Because your mind was on the fruit, not the action. The anxiety of the result cannibalized your ability to perform the task.
Okay, I see where you're going. The anxiety about the outcome sabotaged the process.
Krishna is arguing that you actually perform better when you stop calculating the ROI while you are working. It's the zone, it's flow state. When a surgeon is operating, do you want him thinking about his billing hours? Or do you want him thinking about the scalpel?
I want him thinking about the scalpel 100%.
That is karma yoga. It isn't apathy about the result. It's a strategic allocation of attention. You give 100% of your mental energy to the process, to the action itself.
So it's not, I don't care if I win. It's, I'm too busy playing the game to look at the scoreboard.
Exactly. The scoreboard causes anxiety. The game brings joy. Krishna defines yoga in verse 50 as karmasu koshalam, skill in action. Detachment doesn't mean doing a sloppy job. It means doing such a perfect job because you aren't distracted by the fear of failure or the greed for success.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like the archer analogy. If Arjuna is staring at the target thinking, I have to hit this to win the war, his hand will shake. If he focuses on the bowstring and his breathing and the form, the arrow flies true.
Precisely. The outcome becomes a natural byproduct of excellent action, not the object of your anxious focus.
But there's a deeper layer here in the source commentary about the Vedas and transactional religion. This is interesting. Krishna actually critiques the scriptures a bit.
He critiques the misinterpretation of them. He talks about people who follow the flowery words of the Vedas, who follow the rituals just to get rich or go to heaven. He calls this transactional. I do X ritual, so God gives me Y cow.
It's a vending machine, God. I put in the prayer coin, I get the blessing bar.
Correct. And Krishna says in verse 46, what use is a well of water when the whole countryside is flooded?
The well versus the ocean. I love that analogy.
Why rely on a small well, which represents minor rituals for minor gains, when you have access to the ocean?
Explain that metaphor. Why is the well bad? I mean, a well is useful.
A well is limited. It can dry up. It requires effort to draw from it every single time. If you were just working for a paycheck, the well, once you spend the money, the satisfaction is gone. You are thirsty again. You have to go back to the well. It's a cycle of scarcity.
And the ocean?
The ocean represents the infinite spiritual connection, the self, the divine. If you connect to the source, you are fulfilled. You don't need the little external rewards to feel okay. You work because it is your nature to contribute, because the action itself is fulfilling, not because you are starving for validation.
So karma yoga is doing the work as an offering to that ocean rather than a transaction for a bucket of water.
Beautifully put. You're working from a place of fullness, not a place of lack.
Okay, so we know what we should do. Focus on the work, not the result. See ourselves as the soul, not the body. But why is it so hard? Why do we crash? Section 5 of our deep dive gets into the mental spiral.
This is verses 62 and 63. It is arguably the most precise psychological breakdown of self-destruction ever written. It's a chain reaction. It's a formula for ruin.
It's like a domino effect.
Yeah.
Or a slip and slide to hell. Let's walk through the steps because I think we can all identify where we are on this ladder right now. Step 1. Contemplation of objects. Dayata Vishayan Pumsa.
This is where it starts. So deceptively simple, just thinking about it.
Give me a modern example.
Okay, doom scrolling. You are on Instagram. You see a photo of someone on a vacation in the Maldives. Or you see a new car. Or your rival at work gets a promotion. You just look at it. You contemplate it. You let it occupy your mind.
Innocent enough, I'm just looking. But then step 2. Attachment. Sangas to Shupajayat.
I like that. The mind hooks onto it. Man, that looks nice. I wish I was there. He doesn't deserve that promotion, I do.
The seed is planted.
Step 3. Desire. Sangat Sanjata Kamo. I need that. Now it's a craving. My life sucks because I'm not in the Maldives. I need to book a trip. Or I have to get a promotion better than his. It's no longer a passive wish. It's an active need.
And here is where it gets dangerous. Step 4. Anger. Kamat kortho dijarete.
This is the inevitable flip side of desire. It's the shadow that desire always casts.
Why inevitable?
Because two things can happen. One, you check your bank account, you can't afford it, and you get angry at your job, or the economy, or yourself. Or two, you book the trip, but your flight gets delayed. Now you are furious because something got between you and your desire.
True. Road rage is basically just, I desired to be there and you were in my way. It's anger born from frustrated desire.
Exactly. Desire creates the potential for anger. And from anger comes step 5, delusion. Krodhat havati samoha.
Delusion, that's a strong word.
You lose your sense of right and wrong. When you're truly enraged, you say things you don't mean. You throw the plate. You scream at your spouse. You send that career-ending email. You're deluded. You aren't seeing reality anymore. You're just seeing red.
And from delusion comes step 6, loss of memory. Samohat smriti vibrama.
This one confuses people. It doesn't mean clinical amnesia. It means forgetting who you are, forgetting your values, forgetting the lessons you've learned. In a fit of rage, you forget that you love your spouse. You forget that you are a professional. You become just the anger. You forget your better self.
And finally, destruction of intellect and ruin. Smriti brahmshad buddhinasho. Buddhinashat pranashati.
The career is over. The relationship is broken. The battle is lost. And it all started with just contemplating the object, just scrolling on your phone.
It's terrifying how fast that ladder goes down. It makes you realize that guarding your thoughts isn't just a moral thing, it's a survival mechanism.
It is. The text says the mind acts like a ship in the storm, verse 67, if it follows the wandering senses. It gets swept away by every gust of wind. You lose your anchor.
So how do we stop the ship from crashing? How do we become the captain of the ship instead of just a passenger? This brings us to the final section, the ideal person. Arjuna asks a very practical question in verse 54.
He asks, what does a person of steady wisdom, a stita prajna, look like? How do they sit? How do they walk?
I love this. He's like, okay, Krishna, this philosophy is great, but show me the user profile. If I met an enlightened guy at a coffee shop, how would I know? Does he flow? Does he glow?
Chuckles.
Oh.
And Krishna gives some very specific, very grounded imagery. The first is the tortoise, verse 58.
The tortoise. Okay.
One who withdraws their senses from the objects of sense as the tortoise withdraws its limbs into the shell.
So it's about control. When danger or temptation comes, you don't fight it, you retract. You pull back into your own safe space.
You disconnect. This is crucial. In the modern world, we are bombarded. Notifications, ads, demands, gossip. The wise person knows when to pull the head in, when to put the phone on airplane mode, when to say no to the drama.
But wait, isn't that just repression? Avoidance.
Good question. It can be.
If I'm on a diet and I lock myself in a room so I don't see the donuts, I'm technically withdrawing. But I'm miserable. I'm still thinking about the donut. The desire is still there.
That brings us to verse 59 and what our notes call the fasting paradox.
The fasting paradox. I like that.
You can starve the senses, you can fast, but the craving, the rasa, the taste for it remains.
So I'm just a hungry tortoise hiding in my shell.
Exactly. And eventually, the hungry tortoise will snap and eat the whole box of donuts. Willpower is finite. Krishna says the taste, the rasa, only disappears when one sees the supreme, when one develops a higher taste.
Higher taste.
You don't stop playing with toys because you force yourself. You stop because you grew up and found something more interesting, like books or video games or relationships. Spiritual maturity replaces the need for cheap thrills. You don't need the validation of likes on Instagram because you have the validation of the soul.
So you can't just empty the cup. You have to fill it with something better. The withdrawal isn't the end goal. It's a temporary measure until you've cultivated that higher taste.
Right. It's not about negation, it's about substitution. You're replacing a lower pleasure with a higher, more stable joy.
And that leads to the final analogy of the ocean in verse 70. This one is really beautiful.
This is the state of peace. Rivers flow into the ocean, but the ocean doesn't overflow.
I love this visual. The rivers are desires, right? Thoughts, feelings, everything coming at you.
Yes. Desires, thoughts, sensory inputs, they keep coming. You can't stop the world from throwing things at you. You can't stop seeing beautiful things or annoying things or frightening things.
The realized soul isn't a dam that blocks the water.
No, a dam will eventually break under that kind of pressure. They are the ocean.
They are vast.
They are so deep and so vast that the water comes in, but the water level doesn't change. They absorb it all without being disturbed. That is peace. It's not the absence of noise. It's the presence of depth.
That is profound. It's not about having no desires. It's about not being owned by them. And there's one last concept I want to touch on before we wrap up. Verse 69, it's a bit of a riddle. What is night for all beings is the time of waking for the self-controlled.
It's a perspective flip. It's a total inversion of values. Think about what the average person, the world, considers important. Money, fame, parties, sensory pleasure. They are awake to that. That's what they chase all day.
Right, that's the day. That's what's real to them.
The wise person looks at that and sees night, darkness, ignorance. They see people chasing shadows that can never be caught, that offer no real fulfillment.
And the things the wise person is awake to, spiritual truth, silence, self-reflection, the soul.
The world is asleep to that. They think it's boring or non-existent or a waste of time. They're snoring through it.
So they are living in two different realities using the same 24 hours.
Exactly. When you start this journey, you might feel like you are becoming a weirdo. You might feel like you are walking alone at night while everyone else is partying in the day. Krishna is saying, that's okay. You are just waking up.
So bringing it all back to Arjuna in the chariot, we started this hour with him crying, shaking, wanting to quit. By the end of this download, this chapter 2, where is he? What's the change?
He's not fully ready to fight yet. That takes 16 more chapters of conversation. But the panic attack is over. The crisis has been reframed. The emotional storm has passed.
He's got his breath back.
He understands that this isn't about killing Grandpa. It's about a soul doing its duty in a temporary world. He has moved from the micro view, my family, my pain, to the macro view, eternal soul, cosmic duty.
And that is the ultimate takeaway of chapter 2. It gives you a place to stand that is solid even when the ground beneath you is shaking.
Yes, a foundation.
So for everyone listening, whether your battlefield is a boardroom, a difficult relationship, or just your own head at 3 in the morning, the advice from the chariot is pretty clear.
First, acknowledge the meltdown. Surrender the idea that you have to know everything. It's okay to say, I don't know. That's the entry point.
Second, remember the clothes analogy. The stakes might feel life or death, but you are something indestructible wearing a temporary suit. Don't confuse the interface with the user.
Third, do the work. Be the surgeon. Focus on the scalpel, not the bill. Pour your excellence into the action, and let the results be what they may.
And finally, be the tortoise. Know when to pull your head in. Protect your energy.
And aim to be the ocean. Let the rivers flow in, but keep your depth. Don't be disturbed.
That is a powerful place to leave it. This has been a deep dive into the soul of the Gita.
And remember, verse 72 ends with nirvana. It's not just about coping. It's about breaking the cycle entirely, finding that stillness that doesn't just manage the storm, but transcends it.
Find your chariot moment, that place of stillness right in the middle of your own battlefield.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next deep dive.
Goodbye.